Hello, it is 2/22/2025, February 22nd. I just completed Dorothy and the Wizard in Oz. This is the fourth book of the collection that I'm going to show you here. Pretty box set. The Wizard of Oz collection by L. Frank Baum, or Baum, however you say his name. So the third book that I just completed prior to this was Ozma of Oz. That was just a few days ago. And that was my favorite one so far. It was better than the original that spawned the movie that everyone's familiar with. The second and third book comprised the movie in the 80s called Return to Oz. And I haven't watched that yet, but I do have it. I'm going to watch it tonight. So the second book is The Marvelous Land of Oz and Ozma of Oz, which is the two books that together make up the Return to Oz movie. This book does not have any movie, nor do the rest of the books in the collection. There's a total of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15 in this box set. And I'm pretty sure that the 15th one is not written by L. Frank Baum, but someone else. Yeah, it is. It's written by Ruth Plumley Thompson. So in the Oz universe, there are a lot of books that were written after L. Frank Baum was done by other people. And I kind of wish that that book wasn't in the collection, actually, because I only want to read his stuff since he's the former of the whole universe. But maybe it'll be good. Who knows? Not sure why they chose to include that, other than 15 seems to be a more sellable number than 14, maybe. I don't know. So this book, I got through it and thought, wow, this is really a lot different, kind of a letdown after Ozma of Oz, the third one. And the reason is there isn't really a central thread in this. Rather, it's like a kid telling a bunch of stories, going from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And it's just like somebody making up a bunch of stuff. And I thought, wow, this is really not thought out. So when I checked the wiki on this after I got done, there's a reason for that. So they did not expect these books to keep selling the way they were. And the publisher that L. Frank Baum worked with told them that, hey, these are really a hit. You need to start cranking them out. So the first and second and third books were like 3 years, 4 years separated. This book was only a year after he got done with Ozma of Oz. So he cranked it out, and it's 170 pages, which is 20 pages shorter than the last book. And it's clear the intent was just to keep ringing the bell and getting some money off of these and making the large audience of America happy, I suppose. But this book, the knock on it, after reading the wiki page, and I concur with it, it has a lot of violence in it. So children would probably not be back in that era as enthralled to read it because it's kind of scary. I'm not going to give you a spoiler per se because there's really not a central story to spoil in this book. But it was a lot like Journey to the Center of the Earth at the beginning, which was written 44 years prior to this book. And that was a masterpiece, of course. A lot of the basis of the beginning was just like reading Journey to the Center of the Earth, except for it was quicker. They got there faster, right? So in Journey to the Center of the Earth, they're going down, 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 down for a long time, and it's more realistic. This is more like, oh, there's an earthquake, and we fell in, and we landed in Oz. So that was kind of weird. And then they get down there, and the people are not meat people. They're like vegetables. So I'm just going to tell you the biggest showdown in this book. If you don't want to hear it, don't listen to this part. So the wizard finally shows up in a balloon. He randomly falls into the land also. And the king of that land is going to like have his wizard go against the Wizard of Oz. And we know from the first story that the Wizard of Oz is kind of like a charlatan. He's more like a magician, not really a wizard. So the Wizard of the Land Below tells the Wizard of Oz that he's going to suck his breath out of him and make him die. So he starts doing it to him. And it was kind of like Indiana Jones, where the guy's over there waving his sword real fancy and everything. And then Indiana Jones just pops out a gun and shoots him. This was very similar to that. The guy's sucking the air out of the Wizard of Oz. So the Wizard of Oz just walks over to him with a sword and chops him in half. And that's when they realized he wasn't like a person, but he was like a potato. And so I'm just going to tell you what happens because it's a really weird book. Again, if you don't want to hear it, just skip it. So he's a potato. And then they said, oh, we got to get him in the ground now because you only have so much time. And it's like, why do you have to get him in the ground? Because there'll be more wizards that grow out of him because you put him in there like a root and then more come out. So they get out of that story. They end up in another place and another place and another place. They finally end up back at the Emerald City or something. But it's a bunch of just connected perils. Things that are after them are, it was lions. Either lions or tigers. I think it was lions. There was a dragon situation that was very short and kind of weird and unnecessary. What other perils did they had a trial for a cat that had supposedly eaten a mouse. Turned out he didn't eat the mouse, but the mouse had fallen into a vase when he was trying to eat the mouse. It's just a bunch of disconnected, very weird stories and just didn't have a theme. There was no mission, and Dorothy was just kind of like riding along, didn't really have anything to do with it, even though it's Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. She seemed pretty inept and not really involved in a lot of ways. So I wouldn't say I disliked the book. I mean, it was different. And clearly L. Frank Baum is a good writer because he produced some masterpieces already. And I tried to decide, is this the worst book out of the four? And I tend to think it is. The Marvelous Land of Oz had a lot of drug references in it, which was kind of weird. This one had a few. And again, it was just not a centralized story plot. So I think overall, this was the worst one so far. And I'm hoping that trend doesn't continue since they were apparently just focusing on getting more books out. So the next one is called The Road to Oz. This one, I'm going to start that and see how long this one is. This one's even shorter. It's 166 pages. So I'm not holding out a lot of hope that this is going to have a centralized plot like the original three did. But the next video that I'll be posting related to Oz will not be that book. It will be the review of Return to Oz, since I barely remember seeing it in the 80s. And most people were kind of perplexed by that movie. Try not to knock my book catalog all over myself here. So I'm hoping that it's a diamond in the rough because it's got a cult following, and I'll be telling you what my wife and I thought of that movie tonight, and I'm hoping it's real good. It had a big budget, and the thing I'm excited about from book 2 and 3 was that there was really a lot of memorable characters, right? We had Jack Pumpkinhead, who Jack Skellington was based off of, so that should be very familiar. It had a flying sawhorse. It had the Tin Man, I think, was still with them, and the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion. I think all three were still with them. And then it also had TikTok, another robot that was made out of copper, which previously I mentioned in the second book review. So if you go in my live section, you'll see the prior 3 book reviews, and I am going to read all 15 of these this year, barring getting hung up on some other books that I've changed a course on. So hopefully I'll get through them all this year.